And this is my elevation sheet. And the first thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to do a save as. And I just want to go into, oh, I'm on my jump drive here. So I've got elevations, and I'm going to just save this as project 8 building section, or I'll just call it section. Just so that I, have both. All right. So what I'm going to first do is I'm going to copy this whole thing. I want to leave the elevation as it is, but I want to use that elevation as a guide for the building section. Let me turn my ortho on here. So I'm just going to come down here and plop a copy down right here. So this I'm going to turn into my section. So I'm on my line weight medium. So I'm for right now, I'm going to draw all of my lines on the medium line weight. And I believe all of these lines are drawn on medium line weight. And the truth of the matter is that later on, when we're drawing the sections, the cut through the ceilings and the roof and the walls and the floor, those are the heavier lines, and all of this stuff is going to go on a lighter line weight. So I think what I'm going to do right now is I'm going to just put all of this line weight medium. I'll leave the hatch on the hatch layer, but I'm going to put all of this on the light line weight. So I'm just going to put this on line weight light, which looks exactly the same as line weight medium. So I think to help me, I'm going to change the color of the light line weight. So I'm going to go to layer properties. Here's line weight light. And yes, it's white. And I'm just going to turn it in. I'm going to make it a gray, just sort of this medium gray here. I'm using color 253 here. And that way, yeah, now I'll be able to easily distinguish what's on the light line, medium line weight, and what's on the light line weight. And right now I'm going to use match properties and just go through and change everything to that light line weight, except for those perimeter walls. So maybe I could do this with a window. Those are not changing, but that's okay. And I'm leaving those dashed lines on whatever layer they're on, because I just want to preserve that hidden line type. Okay, I think I've got everything. These are not going on. They are on line weight light, but they're light colored, and I think that's because they are not on layer. They weren't drawn on layer 0. So I'm going to edit this block just very quickly here. And yes, this sconce was created on the walls layer, which is a no-no. We should always have our blocks on layer 0 so that we can change the color of them when we change the layer that they're on. So I just very quickly just selected everything. I put everything on that sconce on layer 0. I'm going to close that. Yes. Now they're grayed out. Okay, that's good. That makes me happy. So, all right. So my white lines are on line weight medium, and I'm on line weight medium. I think I'm ready to go. So the first thing, I think I'll start with this wall over here on this side. So we need to draw a section through the wall. And we kind of have to know what the components of the wall are. So because this is a new building, this will be drywall. So this will be wood studs with drywall on top of it. And so the first thing that we need to do is draw drywall. So drywall comes in a whole bunch of thicknesses, half-inch, quarter-inch, even eighth-inch drywall. For if you're using like curved, if you have like a barrel vault or something like that, you'll use a thinner, or your contractor will use a thinner drywall because it can curve easier. But we want a good, thick, sturdy drywall. So we're going to use 5/8 drywall, and that's the most common drywall thickness. So I'm just going to start by offsetting 5/8 of an inch to put that drywall in right there. And you know what? While I'm at it, the ceiling here is going to be drywall, so I'm going to do 5/8 there. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to detail this half of the building, and then we'll select it all and mirror it onto this half. So we have half the amount of work that we need to do here. So let me, I'm going to fillet this while I'm at it. All right. Okay, so we've got drywall. Now we need a stud. So these will just be 2x4 studs. I'm sure you've all heard of 2x4 construction or 2x4 studs. And a 2x4 stud actually is not 2x4. It's not 2 inches by 4 inches. 2x4 refers to the nominal dimensions of the lumber of the piece of wood. So 2x4 means that it is 2 inches by 4 inches nominally, but actually it's smaller. It's 3.5 inches by 1.5 inches. So or 1.5 inches by 3.5 inches. So the 2 is actually 1.5, and the 4 is actually 3.5. Don't ask me why, but that's the way it is. So so I'm going to offset 3.5 inches, 3.5, and that is going to be the thickness of our studs that are going to be running up and down. Now at the so I'm going to have down here, this is the floor over here, and I'm going to extend that floor in a minute or so. But the studs will sit on the concrete floor. You know what? I'll just extend this now. Well, no, I'm not going to. I'll do it later. But the studs sit on the concrete floor. And all right, I'm very indecisive tonight. I'm gonna extend it just so you see it. So, but the studs have to nail into something, and what they nail in is a 2x4 that's laying on the ground, and that is called a sill plate. Plate, sill, sill plate. So what we need to do is we need to draw a 2x4 in section that is running toward us, right? That our section line actually cuts through. So I could very easily do that with the rectangle tool, right? I could just draw a rectangle that is 1.5 inches high by 3.5 inches wide, and I would have that would be my stud or my sill plate. But AutoCAD has some studs already set for me. So if I go over to my View tab and I go to my tool palettes, and I think you can also access your tool palettes with Control-3. Yeah, that toggles them on and off. And this is what we use to pull in doors. And right down here, there is a stud, just a wood stud. So I'm just going to click and pull it into my my document here. I'm going to close this for now. And if I measure this stud, it is 1.5 inches by 3.5 inches high. So that is a 2x4 stud. And if I click on it, this is actually a dynamic block. So I can change the type of stud it is. This is a 2x4, but I can make it a 2x6 or 2x8, 2x10, 2x12. So there's a 2x12. That's like, that would be like a floor joist, that like, the floors in your house are made out of. But I want a 2x4, so I'm going to select that and I'm going to rotate it. So I'm just going to rotate it 90 degrees. And the other thing I can do with it is, I think it's this one here, is I can double them. I guess I'll do it this way. I can double this. Oh wow. I think I rotated it the wrong way, but there it is. So I doubled it up. So sometimes you need two studs or two studs right next to each other, and we're actually going to do that at the top of our stud wall here. But for now, I just need one. And what I can do is I can just pull that up. Just using this grip, I can make, up to 4 of them if I wanted, but I'm just going to do one here. And then I'm going to move it into place just with the move tool. Grab that endpoint and put it right over here. Okay, so that is my sill plate, and then the studs are every 16 inches. They run vertically, and they actually get nailed into the sill plate, and this sill plate gets bolted into the floor. And then so I'm gonna copy this, as I want another one up at the top, and I'm just going to put it right here, right where the drywall corner, the back corner of the drywall is. And at the top of the wall, I do want 2 studs. So I'm going to pull that down. So I've got a double header. This is a header, and this is a sill plate or sill. All right. So now we have our drywall, we've got our stud wall, and now working out over here, we need some sheathing. Sheathing is just plywood, and it is on the exterior of the stud wall, and then your siding gets attached to the sheathing, or sometimes there's a gap between the sheathing and then you put up brick veneer if you want, but or ephes, or like drive it can go on it as well, or plaster can go on it, whatever it is that you decide the exterior of the building should be. So our sheathing is going to be 3/4 of an inch thick. So I'm going to offset 3/4 of an inch. There we go. And then later on, we'll put siding on the side of this. That'll probably happen tomorrow or next week, but see how far we get today. So there is our stud wall. Beautiful. All right, so now what I need to do is the stud wall needs to sit on something, right? And that is the foundation. So I'm going to have a foundation wall down here. So I'll start my foundation wall. Hold on just 1 second. I just want to check my notes here. So, okay, so I'm going to extend my floor just a little bit to there. And I'm going to start my foundation wall down here. It's just going to come down. It's actually going to come down 4'6". So I will just draw that line 4'6" inches. So there it is. It's going down to there. And the foundation wall is actually going to be 8 inches thick. So I'm going to offset it 8 in. So it is actually kind of like extending in, but it's going to notch over here, and I'll get to that in a couple minutes. All right, so there is my foundation wall, and the foundation wall actually sits on a footing. So a footing is, well, just kind of like your foot, right? When you're standing on the floor, your foot extends out and it's wider than your leg, and it stabilizes you, and the footing does the same thing to the wall. If you didn't have a footing, if you didn't have a foot, you would be standing on your ankles, right, and you would be more wobbly. And the same thing with foundation wall. So we need to put a footing on our foundation. So our footing is going to be 8 by 16. So I am going to offset 8 inches up, not down, but up, because that 4'6" dimension, and I'm looking at my drawing here at the handout, is to the bottom of the footing. All right, so that will mark the top of the footing, and then the footing extends out beyond the foundation wall on both sides by 4 inches. So I'm going to offset 4 inches. And now I'm going to do some filleting and trimming here to clean things up here. And I'm just going to trim this. Okay. So what the contractor does is they dig a big hole here, and then they form this footing here, and then they fill it with concrete and they let it set. And then once it's set, then they pour the foundation wall. So there's one more thing that I need to add to the footing, and that is a keyway, or sometimes called a key. And it is a little rectangular, it's a little rectangular piece with beveled sides. And what the key does is it stabilizes this foundation wall, so it won't shift and move after it's in place. And it just sort of, kind of locks that foundation wall in place. And the way that the contractor does it is when he's pouring the footing, so he has the forms all set for the footing, and then they pour and fill this with concrete, and it's wet concrete, and then they embed into the concrete. They embed a stud right into the concrete, and that stud, and then they let the concrete dry, and this stud is sitting in here, and then they pry it out, and then there is this rectangular keyway that's left over, and then they pour the foundation wall. Well, it's hard for them to pry out this stud when the sides of it are vertical. So what they do is they notch it, or they wedge it, so that it is easier to remove. So what I'm going to do, because this is a block here and I can't really pull this in to show the beveled sides, what I'm going to do is I'm just going to trace it with the rectangle tool. So I'm just creating a rectangle, and then I'm just going to erase the stud. So now I have this, just a simple rectangle here, and I'm just going to pull. I'm just using my grips, and I hope this works. And I'm just going to push it over a 1/2 inch. Oops. 0.5. Hoping this works. Oh, that's not cooperating with me. You know what? I'll do it this way. I'm just going to draw a little guideline for myself here and here, and then offset it 0.5 or 1/2 inch. Yeah, this is, in the end, it's going to be easier for me. And then I'll just grab this grip and move it to that guideline, and grab this grip, move it to that guideline. And then I can just get rid of those guidelines. I'll just erase them. Just crossing window. and I will just trim the top here. So after this footing is set, they rip out that wood stud key, and that leaves this keyway, and then they form the walls, and then they pour this this foundation wall. Okay, so our slab, our room is going to be a slab on grade, and that means that grade is ground and the slab is sitting on the ground. And our slab is going to be 6 inches thick, I think. Let me just check my notes here because I'm going to tell you right. Yeah, it's 6 inches thick. So I'm going to offset 6 inches. And I am going to come down here. What I want to do is I'm just going to come from this point, and I'm just going to draw a line down here some distance. And I want to chamfer. So, oh, you know what? Here, I'll do it this way. I'm going to do it this way. So I'm gonna draw a line here, and I want this line to be 45 degrees. So I'm going to use, and I haven't used this in a while, but I'm going to use my polar tracking. So I'm going to set it, mine is set to 45 degrees. And I will turn polar tracking on, and I'm just going to draw a line that is, wait a minute. Wait, guys, I'm doing this wrong here. Ooh. Oh, okay. Okay, never mind. All right, I am going to use chamfer. So, all right, so under fillet is chamfer right here. So chamfer allows me to do that 45-degree angle line here. And what I need to do is I need to set the distance of that line. So I am going to do a 3-inch chamfer. So I'm going to click on, no, I'm going to do a 4-inch chamfer. So I'm going to click on distance down here, and it's asking for the first chamfer distance, and by default it's saying 1/2 inch. I'm going to change it to 4. And then it's asking the second chamfer distance, and it's saying 4. And yes, that's fine. So I'll just hit my enter or space bar. And now I will choose this line and this line. All right, there we go. Now I'm going to draw a horizontal line from the end of the chamfer, and I'm drawing a vertical line from the edge of the stud wall here, right here, and then I'll just fillet those. Okay, so what's going on? What are we drawing here? Well, so this is the foundation wall, and then the foundation wall has a little flat part on it, and then it extends up here. So this extends up, and they can put the studs on the top of the foundation wall, and then the stud wall is carried down. The weight of the wall is carried down into the foundation. And this flat part is for the floor slab. So the floor slab comes around and it sits on the foundation wall as well. So it's partially being supported by the ground, but it is also partially being supported by this foundation wall. So that hence this 45-degree chamfer, so that the floor slab here chamfers over and sits on the foundation wall. All right. And between the bottom of the floor slab, this is the floor slab right here, and the grade or the soil that everything is sitting on, we want to put some gravel. And we're going to put 4 inches of gravel. So I'm going to offset 4 inches. And we're going to show these materials with the hatch command later on as we finish things up. So I'm going to just extend this over. And if you remember, if I use trim and hold my shift key, I can extend lines. So it's a nice way to either extend or trim. I can use trim to both trim lines and extend lines. And I extend by holding that shift key. So, all right, so this will be the gravel, and then this will be the grade or the soil that everything is sitting on. Okie doke. That looks pretty good. All right, so let's move up. All right, so I have my drywall running along the wall. It's being supported or nailed into the stud wall here. And then it's running up along the ceiling. I've got a pitch ceiling here, and it needs to be nailed into something as well. Right. So those are some rafters that we're going to put up there, and those are going to be 2x6 rafters, 2-inch. So just like this is a 2x4, 2 inches, or a 2x4 nominally is 2x4, but in actuality it's 1.5 by 3.5. A 2x6 is 1.5 by, anyone want to venture a guess?
5.5.
5.5, yes. So I'm going to offset 5.5 or 5.5 inches. So these will be my my ceiling joists or rafters. They're both called the same thing equally, and they'll be running along, and they'll be supported by this wall here. So this double header plate here is actually going to be supporting these rafters here. And they'll be running every 16 inches along this wall, and then they'll nail up or screw in the drywall. So I'm going to, I just want to, I'm just going to draw a line straight up here. Let me turn my ortho back on, and then I'll just fill it. This. So the rafter is notched a little bit here, and it is just sitting on this header plate. So the weight of the roof and the ceiling is carried down by the rafters, hits this sill plate, and then is carried straight down into the foundation. And then the footer here sort of distributes the weight onto the soil underneath it. Oh, you know what else I forgot? I forgot a drain tile. You should always have a drain tile around the perimeter of your house or any building. And what the drain tile does is it absorbs water. The drain tile is like a pipe. It's like a pipe that has holes in it. And as the water percolates down through the soil, it goes into the drain tile, and then the drain tile leads to the local sewer system, or to the curb sometimes. But it pulls water away from your building. The last thing we want is water to just sit by our foundation wall. Foundation walls have little cracks in them, and if you got a basement down here, then you got a flooded basement. So we want to put a drain tile here, and it's just going to be a 5-inch diameter drain tile. So I'm just going to use a circle tool, and I'll just come over here and just draw 5-inch diameter. So half of 5 inches is 2.5. But if I don't want to do the math, I can go down here and click diameter and then type 5. Either way, I'll just bring this in just a little bit. Okay, and then around the drain tile, I want to have gravel. So just like I have gravel over here, I want to put some around the drain tile. So I'm just going to use my rectangle tool here, and I'll just start here, and just kind of go across. And I'm just using the eyeball system here. And then we'll fill this in with gravel when we do that, when we do our hatching. Okay, lovely. Make it just a little bit wider. Good. All righty. So we have a ceiling joist or a ceiling rafter, but this is not our roof. Our roof has a steeper pitch and is going to come up like this. So when this is at a more shallow pitch than our actual roof. Now, if you look at the handout, there's a little triangle there and outside of the roof, and it says 8 and 12. And that is a symbol that contractors use to be able to determine the pitch of the roof. So this is an 8 and 12 pitch roof. So what on earth does that mean? That means for every 8 inches or 8 feet that I go straight up, I'm going to go 12 feet or 12 inches over to the right or to the left, depending on which way the roof is sloping. So I'm going to just draw some lines, some guidelines for myself to get this pitch. And then, oh, you know what I'm going to do first? No. You know what? First, I'm going to draw. There's an eave here, and a fascia and a soffit, and I'm going to draw that first, and then I'll put my roof on. So, all right. So let me look at my notes here, and it looks as if I'm going to get in here. This my blurry eye is not letting me read this stuff easily. Okay, so I have 7 feet 4 inches and to the soffit. So, all right. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to draw. I'm going to have a soffit that comes out here 7 feet 4 from the floor. So this is the floor right here. So I'm going to go up 7 foot 4, and then I'm going to draw a soffit, and that soffit is going to be 1 foot 1.5 inches. I'm looking at my handout here, and then it's going to go up 8 inches. So, all right. So let me go to my line tool, and I want to make sure that I have my O tracking on, my object snap tracking on, and I do. So I'll start here, and I'm just gonna hover over that where the floor is. I'm gonna go up. I'm looking for that green line. There it is. And I'm gonna go up 7 foot 4. I don't think that that's on the handout because I have it handwritten here. So 7 foot 4 inches. I just O-tracked up 7.4, and now I'm going to draw the soffit. The width of the soffit is 1 foot 1.5. So 1 foot 1.5 is 0.5. And then it's going to go up, again, looking at the handout, 8 inches. Okay, so that point there is where my roof is gonna spring from. It's gonna start to go up from there. That's why I wanted to draw this soffit right now. And we'll fill in. I'm gonna fill in the details of that soffit a little bit later, but right now I want to get my roof in. Okay, so I said that the slope of that roof was 8 and 12. It has an 8 and 12 slope. So these are guidelines I'm drawing now. So I'm just gonna go right from here, and I'm going to go straight up 8 feet. And then I'm going to go straight across 12 feet. And then if I come down, let me turn my ortho off. If I come down to my starting point, which was right there, and I'm done drawing, so I'll just hit my space bar. That is the slope of our roof. So I don't need these guidelines anymore. So let me just erase those. So there is the slope of our roof. All right, that looks actually pretty good. Okay, so now I have so all right, so our roof is going to have shingles on it, right? And the shingles need to be attached to something, and that is sort of the substrate or the sheathing that the shingles and then there's roof. So there's a sheathing, and then there's roofing felt, and then the shingles themselves. So we're not going to show the roofing felt, but we will show the shingles in a minute, or maybe next week we'll show the shingles. Um, but I do need to show the sheathing. So just like here, I had 3/4 sheathing on the outside of the building. I need sheathing for the roof, but I need heavier duty sheathing than 3/4 inch. I need 1 inch sheathing here. Why is that? Because in the winter, snow collects on this, and snow is really, 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 really heavy. So this needs to take a lot of load, and we don't want any deflection in our roof. So I'm going to give it a 1 inch thick piece of sheathing. And the sheathing is actually plywood. It's exterior grade plywood. That's really what it is. So I'm going to offset 1 inch down into the roof, not out, down. So that there is our sheathing. And then the sheathing needs to sit on some joists that are going to be running across, just like the ceiling needs to sit on joists, or the ceiling is attached to the underside of these joists or rafters. The sheathing needs to sit on joists too. And also, just like this was 2x6, this is going to be 2x6 as well. So I'm going to offset not 6, but 5.5, 5.5, because a 2x6 is actually 5.5 inches deep. All right, so I have my sheathing, I have my roof joist here, and this is actually going to be a truss that we're going to draw, but I'll get to that in a couple minutes. And so let's flush out this here. And next week also we're going to do a big detail of this, but I do want to flush it out right now. So this soffit here, there's actually 2 parts to a soffit. The underside here is the soffit. So when you go outside and you see that overhang on the side of your roof, and when you look up at it, that part that is, that you're looking up at is the soffit. And then the vertical part, so when you're standing across the street looking at the side of your roof, that vertical part is the fascia. So I'm going to draw those, and those are going to be 1/2 inch. So I'm going to offset 0.5 inches, and it's going to go in 1/2 inch and up 5 inches. Not 5 inches, 1/2 inch. And so I need to trim this a little bit. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to trim this horizontal. So when we're drawing this, we want the joint. This is sort of a joint between. This is a piece of finished wood here, and this is a piece of wood here, or maybe it's not. Maybe it's aluminum siding or something like that. But the joint between the two is right here. It's a vertical joint, not a horizontal joint. And the reason is, if it's a horizontal joint and it's raining, water can seep into that horizontal joint. Whereas if it's down here and it's raining, the rain, would have to, it could, I mean, the underside of this could get wet, but then it would have to travel up here to get up into here. It's a lot harder for it to do. All right. And then there is going to be another joist over here. So I'm going to offset 1.5 inches, offset 1.5. And this is just going to be a 2x8 over here. But I'm just going to draw it instead of. So I'm using my trim tool to trim here, and then I'm going to hold shift and extend up here. And actually, I'm going to extend down like that. So this roofing is this roof sheathing is going to come down here like that. So let me trim that. And actually, while I'm at it, I will extend this. And again, to extend, I'm just holding my shift key down to extend that wall, that line. And so this is a piece of wood, support wood here, that we're cutting through. And when we're cutting through lumber, like these studs here, we need to show that X running through it. So I'm just going to hand draw that. And don't worry, I'm not testing you on this, but I just kind of want you to kind of at least sort of know what it is that you're drawing as you're drawing stuff. That's why I'm kind of going through this stuff. And so this sheathing here is coming up here and it ends right here at this top plate. So while I'm here, I'm going to do a little cleanup and just draw the top of that sheathing there. And then there is a stud, a 2x4 that is going to sit up here. And so what happens is this sheathing goes up and then they nail a stud right here. And the reason that is there so that they can attach this soffit down here. So this soffit is attached to here and to here. All right. So let me, I could copy and rotate, but you know what I'm going to do? I'm just going to go to my view menu, my tool palettes, and just pull in a new stub. Just, I think for me, that's just going to be easier. And then I'll just move this right into place right there. And then that stud will extend out. So I'm just going to draw a line that is going to come out and just go to there. Actually, this part of the stud, this part of this line should be hidden by this joist. So actually, I'm going to trim it. Yeah, that's the way to show it. That's more proper. Okay, that looks pretty good. We need to get insulation in our walls. We don't want these walls not to be insulated, and as a matter of fact, we want insulation in above our ceiling as well. So let's look at that. So there is generally batt insulation is that squiggly line that goes back and forth. Let me see if I can find it here. Right there, it kind of goes back and forth. And in the industry, when you see that line, that means batt insulation, BATT insulation. And batt insulation is like that, the Owens Corning fiberglass, that pink fiberglass insulation that you see, behind the drywall walls. So we need to draw that. And AutoCAD has a line type style that will mimic that back and forth. But the first thing I need to do is draw a line. So I'm going to draw a line right from the midpoint of that sill plate to the midpoint of this top stub. So that's running right in the middle of our wall. And I think, yeah, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to create a new line type. So let me go over to my layer properties. Do I have an insulation wall layer? No, I don't. Okay, so let's create one. So I'm going to go over here and create a new layer. And I'm going to call it insulation. And I want to distinguish it by color as well. So I'm going to call it red. And right now it's set to continuous, and I don't want continuous. Here it is. It's right here, batting. So I'm going to change the line type to batting. Hit OK. And the line weight. I want this to be a really, really light line weight. So right now it's at 0.20. I'm going to change it to point. Well, I could even change it. Maybe I'll put it at 0.0, either 5 or I'll put out 5, and then we'll see how it looks. All right, so so a new layer, insulation. I've changed it to red. The line type is batting, and the plotting line weight is 0.05 millimeters. So it's very thin line. All right, I'm going to close my layers palette, and I'm going to change this line that I created to that bat. So let me just go over here, find my insulation layer. Here it is. And there it is. So that looks great, but it's, ginormous. So I'll go over to my properties palette, and I just keep mine collapsed over here. If you don't have your properties palette open, you can go to view and then click properties, but I've got mine right here. And I have that line selected, and I'm looking at the line type scale, and it is 1. So I need to bring that way down because it needs to fit within that stud wall over there. So I don't know, 0.5. Let's try that. Way too big. How about 0.2? No, still too big. 0.1. Still a little big. So let me make it 0.0. I don't know, 7. How about if I make it 0.08? All right, that looks good. So it's going almost to this is the drywall on the inside, and this is that 3/4 inch sheathing on the outside, and our insulation is right in between the sheathing and the drywall. That looks actually right what we want. Okay, so I need to do the same thing above our ceiling. We want to have insulation right above our ceiling. So the width of our rafter here, if you remember, was 5.5 inches. So all right, I need to do a little math here. 5.5. Half of 5.5 is 2.5, and a quarter is 2 3/4. Okay, so let me offset. What did I say? 2 3/4 is 2.75. And all I'm trying to do is get that line right in the middle of this joist or this rafter here. And I'm going to change it to the insulation layer. So just selecting it, putting it on insulation. Again, it's way too big. So this one's going to be a little bigger because this is a 2 by 5.5 inches rather than 3.5 inches. So this one is, I have to do the trial and error again here. So 0.2, no, 0.1. That's too much. 0.115. No, that's too big. 0.14. Yeah, that's good. That's good. So I made mine 0.14. All righty. So let me look at my notes. So I have sheathing. I have a joist. We have a soffit here. Oh, you know what I don't have? And this is really important. I need a gutter. So we need to show a gutter on the outside of the building. We need to control water. Building buildings is all about controlling water and diverting it. So my gutter is going to be, let me just look at my notes here. I'm gonna start my gutter right here. And I'm gonna go, put my ortho on. I'm gonna go out, I'm gonna make it 4 inches wide. And I'm going to come down an inch. And then I'm gonna go back over here and go 4 inches down, and then go over 3 inches. Now I could, if I wanted, I could just sort of connect this if I wanted sort of a modern profile. But because this is such a traditional house, I'm just going to kind of do that OG profile, OGEE profile here. So I'm just going to erase that. And I will use, I'll go over to my draw palette here, and I will just use a spline, which we did. Well, I don't, a couple weeks ago, I think we used spline. I'm going to turn my ortho off, and I'm just going to kind of eyeball this and just kind of. That's certainly kind of gawky looking. Or that's maybe a little more realistic. All right, so there's my gutter. Water is going to come down into it and then go over to downspouts, and we'll be able to divert the water as much as we can away from the building. Okay, I think at this point, I still have to draw the truss up here, but I want to have both sides of the roof done. And right now I only have one side. So I want to copy all of this stuff. So I'm copying my foundation, I'm copying this chamfer over here, I'm copying that wall, the soffit, all of this. Oh, you know what? It's also getting a piece of my millwork over here. I don't want to copy that. You know what I'm going to do? I am going to lock this layer so that it doesn't copy it. So I'm just going to come up here. I have the little freeze button here, and just to the right of it is lock. So I am just temporarily, I'm going to lock this layer. So what does that mean? So now when I select all of this stuff, it's not going to worry about this, and it won't select it. AutoCAD's just going to ignore all of that stuff on that layer. So now if I mirror, just going to mirror a window here, grab all of that, and then grab all of that. I think that is going to be, I think that's everything. And then, so I'm done selecting objects. I'll just hit my space bar. And now I need the first point of the mirror line, and I'm just going to use the midpoint of the fireplace here. And just let me turn my ortho on. And oh my gosh, look at that. It's perfect. Erase source objects. No, thank you. And there we have other wall completely done for us. Beautiful. All right. So I need to do a little cleanup here, obviously, because these points aren't connecting, but that's no problem. So I will just, I'm set on chamfer here, but I'm going to go back to fillet. And I am just going to fillet all of these lines. So everything comes to a peak. I'll get my ceiling joists, the drywall. You know what? I'm even going to do the insulation. And that is pretty good. I've got some extra line here. So let me do some trimming here. I also see that where on this side earlier, if you remember, I pulled my floor, my concrete floor all the way out to the outside of my foundation wall. I want to do that on this side here too. I don't want to forget to do that. That's important. Oops. So my foundation wall, I have my drain tile, I have my key, I got my soffit and fascia, I got my gutter. I think I am pretty happy. All right, so now I need to draw some trusses, and these trusses are really what stabilize our roof and keep it together and keep all of the pieces and parts together so that, you know, it stays up, and both sides, so the roof sort of acts as one thing, as one, you know, sort of triangular entity here. And both ends of the roof sit on these walls, this wall, and then this wall over here. So I'm going to draw this truss. So I'm going to start with the line tool, and I'm going to go straight across, and I'll just extend it to the to the sheathing, the roofing. And I'll extend it on both sides. So let me go to my trim tool, and I'm just going to hold my shift key and just extend. I'm extending it to that 1-inch sheathing. Beautiful. And these trusses are also 2x6s, so they will also be 5.5 inches deep. So let me offset 5.5. There we go. I need to do a little trimming here. And over here. All right. And then there's another one that's coming down, straight down up here. And you know what? First thing I want to do is I just want to draw a line here. And this is where, you know, this rafter or this joist and this joist, they butt up and connect to each other. There'll be a little connector up here that attaches them together. But running down below them is this vertical part of the truss. So I'm just going to draw a guideline here, and that's going to mark the center of that truss. And that truss is a 2x6. So it's 5.5 inches wide. So this is the center of it. So I need to go half of 5 inches, 5.5 inches, and half of 5.5 inches. And that is, we did that over here. And that was, if I remember correctly, 2.75. So I'll just offset 2.75 off to the right and off to the left. Good. And I'll do a little bit of cleaning up here. I'll just trim that. And I don't need that guideline, so I'll erase that as well. This I will leave here. All right, so these trusses are held together with this great big old plate. And actually the plate extends down, and it also holds these ceiling joists in place as well. So this is a big plate, and it's 24 inches wide by 12 inches high. So 2 feet wide by 12 inches, or 1 foot high. And I'm going to do that with the rectangle tool. So I'm just going to do it over here. I'm going to start my rectangle. Rectangle tool first wants the X direction, or the horizontal, which is 2 feet or 24 inches. I'll type in 24, and then tab, not enter or space, and then I can get the vertical, which is 12. You could also use a comma too, but I like to use the tab. So there is our big connector plate, and I'm going to move it right from the midpoint of it right to this peak right here, right where the drywall peaks, right there. And then I'm going to trim out all of this line work here. And I'm going to show this joist running behind this plate. So, and I'm going to do it with a dashed line. So that's why I'm trimming it out, and now I'm drawing a new line so that I can change the line type to a hidden line type. And I know I already have one, because I've got it down here. So I may as well match properties. So I'll just grab this and put that here and there. That looks really good. Okay, so the last thing is there's some plates here that attach this joist over here, and they're little 4.5-inch high connectors. So I'm going to offset 4.5 inches, 4.5. Now this is going to get a little bit messy, but we'll do it. And then I'm going to go from this intersection perpendicular to that connector. There it is. And then from this intersection perpendicular. And then I'll do some trimming. Oop, I trimmed the wrong thing. I'm not going to trim, I'm going to fill it. Sorry. And then I'm just going to trim this line because we're not going to really see it. So what this connector does is it just sort of connects this joist, helps to connect this joist to this helps connect this truss to the joist. All right, so I got that wonky connector, and I could mirror it, but you know what? I'm going to draw it again on this side just to show you because it is a little confusing. So I'll just offset. I'm set to 4.5 inches, so I'll just offset this line up. And then I'm just going to use the line tool, and from this intersection, so the bottom of this truss, I'm going to go perpendicular. I'm going to find perpendicular. There it is. And the same thing over here. Go up and find perpendicular there. And then I'll just do some filleting and trimming. And I'll just trim out that little erroneous piece right there. Or just hidden. It's not erroneous, it's just hidden. And there, folks, is our beautiful building section. Now, if we were actually constructing this, we would be going into a lot more detail, but we do have the major pieces and parts, the parts that you as a designer should be aware of. You should know the basics of how a building goes together. So this is it. These are the basics. Okay, so now let's add some hatch. So I'm going to start with my foundation wall, and let me first go to my hatch layer. Draw all of my hatching on my hatch layer here. And so this is going to be concrete, if you remember. So let's go to hatch, which is right here, and find concrete. Oh, there it is. ARCONC. Our conc is concrete. So I'm just going to click on it, and I'll start with the footing. And actually, that scale looks about right. That looks pretty good to me. So I'll choose that, and while I'm at it, I'll choose the wall. And then I'll just hit enter or close here. So there is my foundation wall, nicely hatched. And I can do this one over here. I could mirror this if I wanted, but I'm just going to draw it again. So go to hatch. It's already remembered, I think. Yes, it knows that I'm on our concrete or our conc. And I'll just choose the foundation wall and the footing. Just hit my space bar to have it selected. And now I want to do the floor. This is a concrete floor. Well, I mean, we'll put carpet or wood or tile or whatever it is that you end up wanting to put on there, but it's going to sit on this concrete floor. So if I zoom in, and I'm going to use concrete, and I try to put the concrete in here, it's not doing it. And the reason is because AutoCAD needs to see the entire polygon, the entire area that it's going to hatch. Now, when I hover over it, now it's showing me the concrete. But if I zoom in and the right half of my floor is off my screen, AutoCAD's not going to know what to do. So it needs to see the whole floor before it will hatch it. So get my concrete on here. Okay, that's good. And the symbol for concrete is like these little triangles with little dots. That is actually the symbol for concrete. If ever you're seeing it on a construction drawing, you'll know immediately, oh, that's concrete. Okay, so now this concrete floor sits on some gravel, and the gravel is just underneath here, and we are going to show that next. So let me go over to hatch again, and let me find, these should be in alphabetical order. There it is, gravel. So I'm going to click on that. Let's put this in. Okay, so now this gravel is way too small. So I'll click on it, but now I'm going to change the scale. So the scale of it is right up here, and I'm going to, I don't know, 10. Let me try 10. No, that's too big. Let's try 4. Maybe even smaller, maybe 3. Yeah, that looks okay. So I'm seeing the little pieces of gravel. For gravel, I just hate like everything is in a row. So I like to tweak it. I like to just put it at a slight angle. So I'm just going to put it like, I don't know, 15 degrees. Yeah, for me, that just works. It just looks a little better. It's just a personal preference. All right, so there is my gravel. And we need to put in the soil or the dirt that the gravel is sitting on. Now, I'm not going to, there's too much here. So I'm going to just draw a little guideline here and then fill in an area that is going to have the gravel. So let me go over to my spline here. And I'm just going to start right at the bottom of the footing. I'll turn my ortho off here. And this is free form here, folks. I'm just whatever suits your fancy here. And then I'm just going to pull through and then hit my space bar. And that is going to mark my I'm going to show dirt or soil there. And I want to show it also over here on the outside of the building. But first, you know what? I need to show the grade. And the grade is the top of the soil. Where does the grade stop on my house? Does it come all the way up here, or does it stop down? And generally speaking, the grade usually stops 8 to 12 inches below the foundation line. So that if you're looking at the house, very often you will see concrete, and that is that's your foundation wall that you're seeing. It's extending all the way down 4.5 feet down below grade. And it's one of the reasons why sometimes we put bushes in front of houses, because we don't want to see that concrete. But we don't want our grade to be right here at our wall. We want it to be well below by in this case, if I look at my handout, by a foot. So I'm going to go with my line tool here, and I got my O tracking on. And you know what? Sometimes, and I don't know if I mentioned this before, but sometimes O tracking for me will not cooperate really well. Like it's not right now. Well, there it is. But here's a little pointer, or a little tip. If you go over to your O snaps and you happen to have nearest selected, and I do indeed have nearest selected here, uncheck it. Then when I O-track down a foot, it O-tracks like butter. It works really, really well. And it's just it's a quirk with AutoCAD. I wish they would fix it one of these days, but they still have it. So I'm going to O-track down 1 foot or 12 inches, your choice, whichever one. And then I want to draw my grade. And I'm not going to draw it straight across, even though our lawn may be flat. I want to put a slight slope on it. I want it to be the grade to be away from the building. Again, when it's raining, I want that rain that's collecting on top of the grass to go slightly away from the building. So I have my ortho off here, and I'm just gonna show the grade out coming down just the slope. I have it on the wrong layer here though, but it should be on my medium line weight. So let me just change that. Okay, and then I want to show the grade. I want to show the soil down here. And just like, I don't have a closed area or for the hatch, so I need to close it off, and I'm just going to do it with a spline, just like I did over here. So go to my draw palette, and I'm just going to just show. And on the handout, I'm showing it to the top of this here, so I'll just show it there. But you could show it down here if you'd like. Either one would be correct. So now that this is closed, I can hatch this area. So I'm still on my hatch layer. Good. Let me go to hatch. And right now I'm set to gravel. And I need to find where is it? Oh, here it is, earth, right here. So AutoCAD calls it earth, but I often call it soil or grade or ground or dirt. It all means the same thing. So there it is. It's at a weird angle and it's really small. So I'm just going to left click, and I am going to make some changes here. So right now the angle is set to 15. I want to change that back to 0. And so now it's straight up and down, and it's set to 3. And I think that is too small. Let's try 10. Oh, that looks perfect. So I set my scale of it to 10, and my angle is at 0. And that's the symbol for grade or soil or earth. It's these 3 little lines that are horizontal and then vertical, then horizontal and vertical to create this sort of checkerboard. That's the symbol. All right, I'm going to click that. Oh, and I need to do it over here as well. So let me go over earth. All right. And then, oh, you know what? I need to get a little bit of gravel down here. So let me go back to hatch. Right now I'm set to earth, but I can just choose this gravel. I want it to be the same as this. So I can just click match properties here, and I can select this gravel, and then I can hatch in, and it'll fill it in with that same hatch. Nice. So I don't have to, find gravel again and set the scale and all of that. All right. That looks lovely. I want to do it over on this side, but I'm going to actually mirror this, right? Because I'm not going to draw this again. Got my grade, my hatch. I just want to grab this hatch here. I could have done this after I did all of this mirroring, but doing it now. Put my ortho on. That looks pretty good. I'm going to draw the chimney, though. We're going to see the fireplace is in elevation, right? We're still seeing the fireplace in elevation, and we already put it on a light line weight, which is what we want. We want to see that elevation lightly. We'll see the details of the elevation over here, but over here, we just sort of want the impression of it. And we want to see also that chimney come up here. So the chimney, if I look at the handout, is 23 feet 6 inches from the bottom of the footing. So here's our footing, if you remember, and that's the bottom of it. So we need to go 23 feet 6 inches up. So we could do it a couple ways. We could offset that little line, 23 foot 6, but I'm kind of in a O tracking mood. So I'm going to O track up 23 feet 6 inches. There it is. And so that's going to mark the top of our chimney. And let me put that also on the line weight medium layer. And also let me set, I'm on by default here, the hatch layer. Let me go back onto my line weight medium layer. All right, so the chimney is 5 feet wide. And it's centered right at the very ridge of our roof. So let me draw, I'm going to just draw a guideline here. And that's going to mark the center of the chimney. So it's going to be half of 5 feet to the left and half of 5 feet to the right. Half of 5 feet is 2 foot 6. So I'll offset 2 foot 6 inches to the right and 2 foot 6 inches to the left. And I don't need that guideline anymore, so I'll just erase that. And then I'm just going to extend. I'm going to use trim here and hold shift to extend that down. And I'll just trim that and that. And there is my cute little chimney, or the outline of the chimney. So the chimney has a little cap on the top, a stone cap or something. And the cap is sort of articulated. It kind of comes down an inch and then it sticks out an inch over here and goes across and sticks out an inch over here. And it just sort of creates a nice shadow line that, you know, just gives it a little architectural articulation that I think will be nice. So it comes down an inch. So let me, how am I going to do this? I think what I'll do is I'll just offset this time. So I'll just offset down an inch and I'll offset down another inch. And so this is sort of the top of the stone. And then this part sticks out and it's going to stick out around here an inch. So how do we do that? Well, I could offset this an inch and then fill it. I could grab this and pull it out an inch. Do that. But you know what I'm going to do? Just to refresh our memory on stretch, I'm going to use a stretch tool. So stretch is right here. I use it pretty frequently, but we haven't used it too much we used it in CAD 1 and I don't think we used it so far. So if you remember with the stretch tool, I need to select objects and it wants to select, I want to stretch this line and this line, but you do not select the lines that you want to stretch when you're using stretch. You select them using a crossing window, the green crossing window, not the blue selection window crossing window, but the green crossing window. So I'm selecting this line and this line with the crossing window. And I want to make sure that the end of those two lines is within my crossing window. Okay, I'm happy. AutoCAD wants to keep selecting objects. I'm done, so I'll just hit my space bar. And then it's asking for a base point. I can pick any point, really. I could pick this end point if I want, but I'm just going to pick a point out here. And then I'm just going to move out, and it is stretching those two lines. Well, I only want to stretch it 1 inch, so I'll just type 1 and enter. And there, it's pulled it out. And I can just draw a little line here. Trim this. And there is that little cap on that side. Now I need to do the same thing on this side. I could mirror this over here, but I'm going to use stretch again because it is a good tool to use and to get to know. So click stretch. It wants to select objects, and I want to select the end of this line and the end of this line. Those are the two lines that I want to stretch out into this direction. So using my green crossing, not the blue window, but the green crossing, selecting those two horizontal lines. And so what if I did this? What if I actually did this? So I'm catching the top and this vertical line, the end points of the top corner of the chimney. And now it wants to continue to select objects. I'm done. And I'm just going to pick a base point. Now watch what happens. It's moving all of that stuff, and we don't want that, right? We just want to move those two, this line and this line, or not move, but stretch. So just grabbing those, hit my space bar, select the base point anywhere. It could be out here. I'll just pick this end point just for giggles, and then just pull it out. How much? 1 inch. And then just clean up with the line tool. Trim this little piece of line. There is my lovely chimney. The only thing is there's a flue up here, and that flue is I'm going to use a rectangle. It would actually be circular if we were looking down at the chimney, but we're not. We're looking at it in elevation right now. So it's going to appear rectangular. So I'm going to use the rectangle tool. And I'm just going to draw a rectangle. It's 9 inches wide by 6 inches high. So AutoCAD's asking me for the width. So I'll just type 9 and then tab so I can get the height, which is 6. And then I'm going to move this whole little flue from the midpoint of it to the midpoint of the top of my chimney. Awesome. Beautiful. The only thing now I want to do is just add some hatch here. And I'm going to use the same hatch that I used down here. So let me go to my hatch layer. Select the hatch tool. And I'll do match properties. I'll select this gravel here. Go up there. And then I'll just close my hatch window. And I am golden. Okay. So I think first I'm going to save. I think I'm gonna put the brakes on right here. I think this is actually a really good stopping point. So tomorrow or next week, I will do shingles, or we'll do shingles on the roof, and we'll do siding on the side of the building, and we'll create a new tab, or hopefully you have an elevations tab or a sheet for A4, which I don't have here, but I will. I'll do. That's what you did last week, and obviously I didn't do it, so I'll do that as my homework for next time. And then we'll place it in paper space, add some dimensions to it, some notes, and I think we will be in good shape. You know what? While I'm at it here, I know that I have this line weight light locked. I'm going to unlock that layer. So a couple ways I can do it. I can go down to the drop down here, and there it is. It's locked. I can just click unlock right there, and that would work. Or again, these little buttons right here, this unlock right here. I can click on that and then just select that line on that layer. Oh, it's already locked. I guess I can only, well, I guess I can only lock. Well, I'll be darned. I thought that I could unlock too. Oh, there's unlock. Unlock is below it. So, all right. I knew I could do it. I was just pressing the wrong button. So there's unlock. Select that layer to unlock, and there it is.